justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it,
Shut it
down. If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
If we don't get it,
Shut it down.
Justice. No. No. Justice. No. Shut it
Get.
Eric. Playing too many games.
Shut it down. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are. So we tell them we are Cana, mighty, mighty Cana.
Our voices.
And so we needed a rest. Like, it's very fast and stressful.
Right. And the cost of living is high too.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
People want to know.
Who we are. So we tell them we are Cana,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
mighty, mighty Cana. Mighty, mighty warriors. Issues of people impacted by systemic racism, by systemic poverty, by the destruction of our ecology, ecological devastation, the destruction of our planet and everything living on it, and of this messed up, militarized economy that prioritizes warships, military contractors over human beings and human life. And so what I'm hoping we can spend a little time doing right now is actually hearing from folk who are from here in St. James Parish, folks that are marching in this important march across this state and trying to raise the issues. Because what we have is we're live streaming this. So folks all across the country are watching and are following and are with us and projecting this out all over the country, all over the world, because what's happening here is not just, and we have to build the power to be able to change it. So I'm hoping that a couple of folks that are a part of this important march. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Well, after speak loud. Did I do something?
I need to know why this microphone didn't work.
Well, we can be loud for a minute. I don't know.
Okay, batteries are
Oh, there we go. It's back. There we go. Oh yeah, I think sometimes it comes out. All right. So I'm hoping a couple people can come up and talk to us a little bit about where you've been so far, what you've seen so far, the issues you're trying to raise, so that people can know that people in Louisiana are organizing. People in Louisiana are mobilizing. People in Louisiana are building a movement of those that are most impacted by the devastation, the destruction, and death all around us. And we are fighting back. And when we fight, and when we come together, and when we unite across all the lines that those in power try to use to keep us divided, we know we can win.
Amen.
So I don't know who to call forward, because I know this is a powerful group of leaders, but I'm hoping that Ms. Sharon could tell us a little bit about why we're here and how this fight must go on. Hello?
Hello, my name is Sharon Levine. I'm the director of Rise St. James. We formed the coalition. The coalition is Coalition Against Death Alley. We are here to fight any industry that's trying to come in St. James Parish. Right now, we're going to fight Formosa. This is the site where Formosa planned to build, but it's not going to be built because we're going to stand up and we're going to fight. Nothing can stop us now.
That's right.
Yes.
We're on our way. So I would like to introduce Pat Bryan. He's going to say a few words for about 3 minutes. Then I want to introduce the next person.
Is that our people going to be prepared to do this again in a 30 minutes? To tell your stories again once we get a couple more people here? Okay, good. Because we're going to do this again and again and again until people hear us, okay? All right, good.
Good afternoon. Fired up, 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 fired up. Thank you. 31 years ago, there was a large band of people that walked down this same highway telling folk, wake up. These chemical companies are doing something terrible. They're killing us. And here we stand, 31 years later, with the same message, except we're saying this is genocide.
Yes!
We've seen too many of our loved ones die. And we've seen the chemical companies devalue our land and buy our houses and our properties for nothing. This is genocide. So brothers and sisters, there's a picture here. Picture of grandma and the baby. This is significant because grandma and the baby have a chemical company sit behind them.
Yes.
Those of us who want to save the earth, I'll say this to you. We are facing a great crisis. We cannot save the earth until we save grandma and the baby. We've got to stop these chemical companies from doing what they're doing here. Because if we had stopped the forces in the Amazon, if they had not moved the indigenous people off the land, we would not be trying now to stop the burning in the Amazon. So they're connected. The people on the land are connected to our future. Save the people. Save grandma and the baby.
Yes! 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 Save Grandma and the baby!
So I got a question. Is there a song that you all have been singing as you've been marching?
Which one?
Victory is mine.
All right. So let's do a song because I know some folk are pretty close to us. They're trying to join us, and I want to make sure that everybody hears these stories. So who's the song leader?
Which one? Victory?
Victory is mine.
Okay, let's go. I like that. All right. Victory is mine. Victory is mine. Victory today is mine. I told Rosa, get thee behind. Victory today is mine. Clean air is mine. Clean air is mine. Clean air today is mine. I told Formosa, get thee behind. Clean air today is mine. Clean water is mine. Clean water is mine. Clean water today is mine. I told Formosa, get thee behind. Clean water today is mine. Justice is mine. Justice is mine. Justice today is mine. I told Formosa to get thee behind. Justice today is mine.
So now we're going to hear from John Wynn.
One.
Sorry, John Watt.
Hi, my name is John Hoa Nguyen, and I'm from the group called Justice for Formosa Victims. What we have seen here or heard is about this area and in Texas, but Formosa is everywhere. They went to Vietnam and established a steel plant in Vietnam, and they killed all the fish back in 2016. They dumped toxic waste directly into the ocean. Look at the map. Vietnam is a small country along the China Sea. Here is Vietnam from north to south. And this area, April 2016, Formosa steel plant in this area dumped directly toxic waste into the ocean, and which killed all the fish along the coast 250 kilometers. For the viewers or the businesses that are watching this news conference today, we are not anti-business, we are pro-business. However, we are against a business like Formosa, which is called serial offender. They keep on violating the law in the U.S. and also international wide. Business is good because business create jobs and make lives better. But when a business like Formosa reverse the order, they make lives more miserable. They put profit above human life and human being. That is when we are against Formosa.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No justice, no peace. 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 No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
That's right.
All right, we would like to ask Corinne Van Dellen to come up and say a few words, please.
Tell us about Formosa. Tell us what you know.
Yes.
How many days did you spend in their permit application?
Well, I spent about 2 weeks just trying to download it. It was over 6,000 pages of materials. I'm Corinne Van Dalen. I'm a staff attorney with Earth Justice, and we represent Rise St. James, Louisiana Bucket Brigade, Sierra Club, Healthy Gulf, 350 Louisiana. The list goes on. And we represent these groups in the fight against Formosa. And Formosa is not just the average plant moving in here. It's the biggest thing happening in the United States in terms of greenhouse gases. 13.6 million tons a year is what it's asked for in its permits, several permits, to be able to emit here. That's huge. And it's an amount that will undo the good that many other places in this country, people are fighting hard to combat carbon. And it's being undone right here through the LDEQ. In addition, the ethylene oxide emissions that plant will produce are as big or bigger than anything that is happening in this country, where other states are standing, are trying to stop those plants from emitting those emissions right now. So you have the plant in Illinois at Styrenex is going to be closed. What do we have here in Louisiana? We have DEQ trying to usher in more ethylene oxide emissions because somehow it's okay to emit those emissions here, but not in Illinois.
Not here.
That's right.
No.
Not here, not anywhere.
Heck no, you gotta go. Heck no, you gotta go.
Heck no,
You gotta go.
Heck
No, you gotta go.
Well, as you can see, there's a formidable fight going on right here.
Yes.
That's right.
And the state has a lot of questions to answer before it could ever issue any of the permits that Formosa seeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, right now we would like to hear from Ashley Moon Walker.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Or where it would be.
Right now we are in St. James Parish, 5th District. This is the site over here where Formosa planned to build a $9.4 billion industry. Inside of that industry, they will have 14 plants. We are already bombarded with 12 in this 5th district within a 10-mile radius. And now they want to put this monster on us to poison us even more. We are already having people that's dying. We have a picture of Geraldine. Geraldine Mayho just passed away last month from these chemical plants. She lives in Birdland. Birdland has 2 chemical plants on each side of her house. She couldn't breathe one night that the air met her to the hospital. She was a warrior. She fought with us for this fight with Formosa. Yes. And we have another picture of Keith Hunter. Keith Hunter died in 2018. He was a warrior right there, and he passed away trying to fight the petrochemical plants. He lived right next door to New Star. He can walk to the tanks. And they poisoned him. They poisoned Geraldine. Now they're trying to poison all of us in St. James. Whatever on the 5th district, the Mississippi River is in the middle. Whatever's on this side, it blows to that side. So you don't have a chance. Vice versa. We just ran Wan Wang away from St. James.
Victory is mine! Victory is mine! Victory today is mine! I told myself, get thee behind! Victory today is mine! Joy is mine! Joy is mine! Joy today is mine! I told Formosa, get thee behind! Joy today is mine! Yes!
Now we're going to hear from Ashley.
Yeah.
First, we're gonna do a song. We're gonna do "Hit the Road, Jack." Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, can you tell everybody one of the great times you sang this?
Oh yeah. So should I say the microphone? So this is a song that we sang at the LADEQ hearing for the air permit that was a number of months back. We actually sang it all together out front of the hearing, and then I sang it when I had a chance to speak directly to Formosa's general counsel or representative. So that was kind of cool. Whoops. And the song is designed to really bring us together and galvanize our movement, lift our spirits, and run Formosa out of town.
Yeah, that's right. Get it geared up.
Can I add a little detail here?
Please.
For anybody who was there that night, it was an unforgettable moment when she sang this song. And at these hearings, you're supposed to address the Department of Environmental Quality. But Ashley turned and actually sang it to Formosa. And they were not happy, and DEQ made her turn around and sing back to them. But that was a beautiful moment.
Thanks. Okay, and I'm not going to sing into the microphone because it's supposed to be all of our voices together.
Yeah, all right. Just sit it at top.
Let me hold it for you.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. Formosa, why can't you see you're the worst idea there could ever be? The answer is right no. It's time to pack your things and go. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you dare back no more. Formosa, why you treat us this way? We'll be marching up on our feet today. Keep your guns out of air and our neighborhood. You but you just ain't no good. Well, I guess since we say so, it's time to tell Formosa Frank, just go hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more. What you say? Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you dare back no more. Don't you dare back Louisiana. Air quality, our health comes before industry. Do what is right, do not permit air pollution. back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you dare back no more. 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 Don't you dare back no more. Yes, Jack! Yeah! Okay, now I've heard some words. Yeah!
She knows she can.
And then what's the
Just bring out my words.
you ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready
Okay,
for you to testify.
He's ready for the testimony.
Oh, he's here.
Here to testify. Yeah.
We're ready to hear from you. She didn't know it.
Yeah, Ashley!
Yeah, you testify. You go right
Okay,
on.
okay.
I want to hear you.
Okay.
All right.
In April of this year, I traveled to Seadrift, Texas with a group of activists from around the country, some of whom are here today, to join longtime activist Diane Wilson in her 30-year fight against Formosa Plastics. In Seadrift, Texas, where Diane lives, a Formosa Plastics plant has been emitting plastic nurdles, or tiny plastic pellets, as well as plastic powder into waterways. Diane, uh-oh. I don't think it's working. Hello? Okay. Diane brought us down to Lavaca Bay, where we boarded kayaks to see for ourselves the level of contamination from Formosa's nurdles. Sure enough, everywhere I looked, there were small white plastic pellets everywhere, floating in the water, submerged in the sediment along the riverbanks. I used a small net to take samples of the nurdles so I could come back to Louisiana and show others what Formosa Plastics was up to. And here, this is the sample of nurdles I took. If you guys want to pass this around and look at this. These small pellets are ubiquitous in the environment, and once they are released, they cannot easily be retrieved. They attract toxic heavy metals like mercury to their surface, rendering the water in which they are submerged undrinkable, unswimmable, and unfishable. Diane, a fifth-generation shrimper, once publicly attempted to sink her $20,000 shrimp boat in protest to make the point that with all this contamination, there was no future for fishermen and shrimpers in the region. Diane quit shrimping and became the Lavaca Bay estuarine waterkeeper, taking and recording samples of contaminated water and sediment with a team of volunteers. She amassed so much evidence of this contamination, she decided to file a citizen lawsuit against Formosa to enforce the Clean Water Act, as her state agencies would not do so. Our international coalition of activists accompanied Diane to the courthouse for the final day of testimony in this lawsuit. We helped her carry an entire trailer full of contaminated soil and water samples, like this one, into the courtroom. We carried hundreds of pounds of samples of nurdles for the judge to see with his own eyes. And I have seen the devastation caused by Formosa Plastics now with my own eyes. It is massive. It is apparent to anyone who looks. The judge rightly ruled that Formosa was in violation of the Clean Water Act. And just last week, Formosa settled for the highest sum ever rewarded in a citizen suit in the history of this country, $50 million. The judge called Formosa a serial offender since the company has a history of egregious illegal conduct, from their Baton Rouge plant being in violation of the Clean Air Act every consecutive quarter since 2009, to their Vietnamese plant creating one of the largest oceanic dead zones in history and wiping out an entire village and disrupting millions of people's livelihoods because of exposure to their toxic pollution. We know that the plant they intend to build here will be one of the biggest plastic manufacturing plants in the world. We know it will more than double toxic emissions. Whoops. Hello?
Keep going.
We know it will more than double the toxic emissions in this area and will harm local residents as it is being built adjacent to a predominantly black elementary school. We know Formosa plans to emit over 26 million pounds of particulate air pollution per year, and that it will disproportionately harm the historic African American community here, and that is morally reprehensible. Targeting black communities as sites for industrial pollution is environmental racism and is unacceptable. This amounts to environmental genocide, killing members of a minority group and harming pregnant women, developing fetuses, young children, and elderly people the most, as is documented in the scientific literature. Okay. On exposure to particulate pollution. Yet people of all ages are susceptible to falling ill due to exposure, as evidenced by the sheer onslaught of weekly funerals in these communities. That are already suffering with the highest cancer rate in the country. We know the pollution from this plant will wipe out the ecosystems that southern Louisiana depends on for our seafood, which brings tourism and provides the livelihoods for so many in our state and region. We know that emitting the more than 11 million tons of greenhouse gases as they plan to emit, according to their permit application, will accelerate catastrophic climate change, leaving much of our state underwater. This is not a future for the people of southern Louisiana. It is a death sentence. We will not let that happen here. We stand together to protect and preserve the life and dignity of the historically black communities that reside here. We stand together to protect our coast and our water, our air, our climate, and our way of life. We stand together to protect what we hold dear, our people, our planet. This plant will not be built because the coalition against Death Alley grows more numerous and gains momentum each day. And with each step we take on our historic march, we take towards environmental justice. This plant will not be built because we march today to bring an end to this racist, profit-driven genocide, and we will be victorious. This plant will not be built because we can, we must, and with God's help together, we will stop Formosa. Thank you.
Everywhere we go, people want to know, who we are, so we tell them, we are Canaan, the mighty, mighty Canaan, everywhere we go, people want to know, who we are,
We are
the mighty, mighty Canaan,
the mighty, mighty Cater. Yes. Normally, when people come to a grave site, there's a certain solemnity to standing there. And in essence, Cancer Alley, Death Alley is a grave site full of unnecessary, untimely, and wrongful deaths because politicians give more power to the polluters than they give power to the people. I'm honored and humbled, but also angry to have to be here with the people here today because folks should not be forced to suffer in this way. We were here last spring, and I understand just a minute ago there have been a number of people that have died since last spring. Do we have some pictures of some of those? Come and bring up here, Miss Geraldine.
Right there.
And then,
Bring them up.
I want the media to see this is about real faces and real people, and these are ladies and families, right? Of the high school, but they're going on. But these are real people who ought to be here, who are dead not because God, and I'm being a preacher and a bishop, decided that their days were up, but they're dead because these poisonous and poisoning corporations and the powerful people in powerful political places acted in policy as though their lives did not matter. When we think about where we are, that there are more than 200 petrochemical industries committing this genocide. It is a national emergency.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And Liz, I want to say again to what I said, and I hope the media, you are really the only hope for these folk. And I'm glad the media, you're here. I mean, we know ultimately God is our hope, and they're going to stand, but we need you to tell the story. We need you to call presidential candidates and say that we are saying, if you cannot come to Cancer Alley and fight for the people here, you have no business on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. That every senator, every congressperson, state or U.S., that have looked over these people, they are accessories in the deaths. When we look at the fact that Dinka, for instance, and DuPont has been admitting 100 times the recommended limit of chloroflame for decades, and people are suffering. When we look at the fact that Louisiana, 50% of all the people in Louisiana are poor and low wealth. 50%. 50% are poor and low wealth. That nearly 500,000 people don't have insurance.
Amen.
And at the same time, the people in this community, as somebody just said, the numbers are higher than that. Among African Americans, is over 67% are poor and low wealth. And then on top of that, people in this community have to live with the reality that industries are that you have 50 times more things emitted to cause cancer than anywhere else in the country. The politicians and the polluters have created a death trap. And it's killing black, and it's killing poor whites, it's killing anybody that's around here.
Right, right.
I remember when I was here last time, they got a place where they made it out of the pollutants, and now they don't know what to do with the water. Whether they can't drop it into Mississippi, so they're thinking about throwing it up in the air. And if they throw it up in the air, it's not going to stay in St. Parish, St. James. It's not going to stay here. It's going to move. The whole state, literally the country, is impacted by what is happening here in Cancer Alley, because until we stop what's happening here, we in fact make it possible to happen other places. This country must draw a line in the sand. It was wrong when they started. The other thing about this area is this used to be plantations. And it was the worst plantations in the country. I was reading the other night how citizens like these here today stood up against slavery, some 200 of them, and fought back. And when they put down that rebellion, they cut their hands off. They shot them in the thighs. They shot them in the chest. They cut their heads off and they burned them. And then they put their heads on sticks all along the Mississippi River. And they put their heads on sticks so that anybody else that dared to stand up would be reminded what might happen to them.
Yes.
The people from this area kept fighting and kept standing, and they're going to do so today.
Yes. Yes.
Because this land was deaf land during the plantations of slavery, and it's deaf land now through the pollution that's coming from these chemical companies. And today, as you can see, people are fighting black and white together. Black and white together and brown together.
Yes.
Because we cannot We cannot let this continue. I was reading the other day that when these plants first came, they promised all these jobs. They didn't tell the people they were going to kill them. But they promised the jobs, and then the first 300 or 400 people that they hired, they only hired 6 African Americans. So the people here have been lied to. They've been taken advantage of. Their lives have been destroyed. And we need you in the media to help get this message out nationally and to draw every presidential candidate here to put a spotlight. Just like we put a spotlight on Chernobyl in Russia, we need to put a spotlight on Death Alley in the United States and in Louisiana. And if 7 people dying from vaping, 7 people died from vaping, and it was declared a national emergency. When folk died from opioids, it was declared a national emergency. Well, when people are dying from political polluters, it must be declared a national emergency. Clergy from our pulpits must declare this a national emergency. Politicians from our offices must declare this from a national emergency. We must make sure that there will not be a national convention next year, political convention, where the issue of Cancer Alley is not dealt with. Because people are dying. Now, why are we marching? Why are people marching here? 2 clear things. Marching and calling on the governor to clean it up and to stop it. We need to clean up what has happened and stop any more plants from being built. Is that simple enough? Clean up what has happened and repair the lives of the people, whatever it costs. Whatever it costs. You talk about reparations, whatever it costs. And then stop any more plants from being built. Anybody that signs on to new plants being here is not an accessory to murder by politics. You are a murderer. Somebody said, well, Pastor, you shouldn't talk like that. Well, tell the Bible that. I'm talking like the book talks.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil.
The Bible says in Isaiah 10, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children their prey. Jesus said that those who do a lot of worship but don't care about justice and faithfulness and mercy are hypocrites. Are hypocrites. The Bible in the book of James says that all of the pain and suffering that power people do to others, it rises up to the very ears of God. And he warns the nation that it will corrupt the nation like cancer until the nation does right by the least of these. The Bible is clear. Murder or death by policy and injustice is just as bad and maybe worse than somebody who just walks up and shoots you. Because it is done in the name of the people. What we see here finally, and maybe you can quote me on this one or any of it, but this. We have in Camp's Death Alley a violation of the Constitution.
Come on now.
Because the Constitution declares that we are supposed to ensure domestic tranquility and provide for the common defense. The people in Death Alley have not been defended. The people in St. James have not been defended. The people in St. John have not been defended. Instead, they have been left open to the attacks of these corporations that could not do this if they were not allowed through policy. Amen. This is a violation of the Constitution. Yes. But it also, and we need some media to check into this, how much federal money do these corporations get? How many federal contracts do they get? Because the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says you cannot get federal money and use it in a discriminatory way. And what is happening here is happening in a discriminatory way. It is intentionally happening to poor and black communities. And that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. No corporation, no organization can receive federal monies and then use the money they receive to implement projects or businesses that in fact engage in discrimination. And then what we see here is sin. It is sinful. It is sinful. It is an abomination in the sight of God for people to use power and destroy people's lives. And then take the money, use the money, live off the money that is covered in other people's blood. That's sin. That's demonic. That's wrong. And we must call it so. And the people in these communities have said, until their last breath, they're going to fight to change Death Alley. And we need the media. All they are asking for is that the media simply tell the story. Tell the objective story. Tell the truth. Don't let these corporations keep lying and say it's all right. If it was all right, they would stay here and drink the water. If it was all right, they would stay here and breathe the air. If it was all right, they would be right in the middle of it. But I guarantee you, none of the executives, none of them will live anywhere near what they are making and doing to these people. And so we march. And so we stand. And so we fight. And so we sue in the courts. And so we trouble people. And so we're going to Baton Rouge. And so we're going to trouble the governor. Because our lives depend upon it. And our children's lives depend upon it. And we will not be silent anymore.
Now we want to hear from Reverend Barnwell. 3 minutes.
I represent Justice and Beyond. I'm an Episcopal clergy. My honor to be here, but I wanted to thank the leaders of St. John and St. James Parish. We need to stand behind them. And our good friend Robert Taylor, almost as old as I am, collapsed recently, giving his best. And so let us continue to support our friends in St. John's and St. James. Thank you.
We're going to hear from Reverend Bell. 3 minutes.
I don't need a mic. I speak very loud. The Lord is my shepherd, and we shall not want. You see, when I started out about a year ago, and we had our first march, and 2 chemical plants is between the graveyard. When we walk in that graveyard, you could feel the crowd of people. Enough is enough. You see, we changing from New Orleans with A Community Voice and under Justice and Beyond Coalition. It was meant for me to be here today. One reason I say that, because at 2 o'clock, I'm picking up my grandkids in New Orleans. My daughter called me this morning. She said, I'm taking off today. Not even realize I'm coming here. She said, I'm taking off today so you can have a day off. I said, no, I'm going to St. James. Going to St. James because this is where we need to be. We is tired of chemical plants. We fighting in New Orleans with a gas plant trying to come up. We're going to fight to the end that gas plant do not come up. We're going to fight with St. James for equal opportunity. That they cannot do what they want to do to the people. We've been through enough. we'll suffer enough. But God said, whoever with me, I'm with you. If you lean on his anointing, you wouldn't have to worry because he would change the mind of the officials. You see, they could do what they want to do, but God get in between, nothing they could do. You see, that gas plant and chemical plants that are trying to come up, God will put a stop to it. Because the people are suffering enough. People lost their lives in this struggle. But we here. When we die, our children will carry on what we're trying to carry on. But at the meantime, we must stay together, fight together, and let the official know in the state of Louisiana, we is not tied. You see this right hand? This is your power when you vote. You vote them out. The same way they vote in, you vote them out. You get people in there that are going to work with you and going to be with you to the end. Because a lot of them, when they get in, they don't do what they're supposed to do. But when we vote the right people in, they will be marching with us. They'll be speaking with us. When we march, they will march. You won't have to worry about action. They'll be with us. But St. James, let me tell you, New Orleans is with you all the way. Prayers is with you in the churches in New Orleans. That this thing would not come to be. That's right. You know, if I had to stay on bending knees, I would stay on bending knees. I would cry out to the Lord for y'all because guess what? Y'all voice is being heard all the way down to New Orleans. And if it could be heard down to New Orleans, it heard in Laplace, it heard in Gonzales, it heard in Baton Rouge, it heard in Shreveport because I travel that route all the time. And I let people know that in St. James, they is trying to let the people know you cannot do this to your people. People have suffered enough. People died enough. It's time that people start hearing that we want to live like everybody else. That's right. That's right. And if we pray together and stay together, we will win this. I'm like this. The battle has already been won. We just got to seek our goal because God said he is with us. He's not going to let nothing happen to us. We're going to march. This don't stop here, the government mansion. If it take us to get to Washington, D.C., to the congressman, to the representative, we need to let them know enough is enough. We tired and we fed up, and we going all the way. Thank you.
No, my sister. I just want to make sure that all the media put it out, and we're going to push it out. Reverend Liz Theoharis, myself, the Poor People's Campaign, and every avenue we have. We start at 10 o'clock in Baton Rouge, right? Right. On the 30th. On the 30th. Yes. That's right, on the 30th. Yes. And that was a time, and also the 30th, which is All Saints Day. The first. That's right. Right. So 2 days later is All Saints Day, and that's when we remember all the souls that have gone on in the struggle. That's right. And so we know they'll be cheering us on the 30th. But if we need the media to help put this out, join this body, join this march, join this gathering as we march on the governor's mansion on the 30th, October 30th. That's next Wednesday, right? Am I right? Yes. Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday. At 10 o'clock in Baton Rouge.
All right. Yes, next Wednesday. You want to hear from Myrtle?
Yeah.
Felton?
Woo! Yes.
Yeah. Felton.
Yes.
My name is Myrtle Felton. I'm a resident of St. James Parish. I've lived there all my life, and I've seen many things that has happened. I've seen businesses close, like the restaurant, which is maybe a mile from my house, which was well known. It was built the year that I was born. And I've seen banks close, school closed, post office closed. We have nothing in 4th District but chemical plants. In the year of 2014 was the worst year I could have ever lived there. In February 9th, my brother-in-law passed away with cancer. February the 12th, my sister-in-law, which was his wife, passed away. April the 9th.
Listen.
my husband passed away.
Jesus.
May the 2nd, my sister husband passed away. May 14th, my sister husband's best friend passed away. That was very devastating. Something that is taking me a long time to get over. Because I never thought that chemical plants would cause that much damage to a family all at one time. And my life has never been the same since. And I just look around and things are getting worse. They are not getting any better. I'm so sorry that the community took so long to begin to rebel against these chemical plants. I live at least a mile from Nucor, which is in my front door. I live 2 miles from Mosaic, which is in my back door. I live a mile, maybe a half mile from Occidental Chemical. And I would have been a half a mile away from Wanwa. Thank God he fixed it so Wanwa did not come in my side door. I don't know what would have happened if it did. We don't need any more chemical plants nowhere in this parish nor no other parish. We are full. We have enough. They promise jobs that our people don't get.
That's right.
All we get is death, sickness, and anything else other than wealth. And we rather our health over the wealth. And I look to the politicians to make this real. Change everything that they can change to make my life what it used to be. It's just devastating to have to live here, and it's like nobody cares. You know, nobody cares about nothing when it comes down to our community. We can't get our grasses cut by the parish. We can't get our ditches dug. We have flooding in the area, which I have never seen before in my life.
Jesus.
And I just don't understand it. But I know through God, he'll see us through this.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask you, how many did you name? Was that 6?
5.
5.
In 3 months.
5 in 3 months. 5 in 3 months. Now, I was just sitting there and sometimes get moved by the Spirit. The Bible says that when Jesus went on the cross and went in the grave, he exposed evil openly.
That's right.
I'm going to ask, as we organize for Baton Rouge, brother, and some of the men and sisters, we need some undertakers to lend us some caskets next week.
Yes.
I'm serious. Well, we at least 4 or 5 of them. All right, and they need to go before, because we need to expose evil openly. And everybody that has a loved one, we need to find a piece of paper to stick it and put them on the caskets.
Yes.
All right? Not one, but several.
Yeah.
And when we go to the governor's office, we need to have those right there with us. We need to expose evil openly.
Yes.
I know it's hard, and I know for some people it will be hurtful, and if any of you who've had that would rather us not, then you speak to us, because we want to respect you first.
Amen.
But we hope that some of you will allow the state and the nation to actually see.
That's right.
Mamie Till, when Emmett Till was killed, made probably one of the hardest but best decisions.
Yes.
She said, I'm not closing this casket.
Yes.
I'm going to make the world see it.
Yes.
And the story is said that Rosa Parks saw that. And she said, this is it. We don't know what will happen if we allow folk to actually see. Not just hear, but see. But see. If you got a shirt you can wear or a placard you can wear with all the names of all the persons, it's important that we expose it what? Openly. That's what Colossians said, how you deal with evil. You do not deal with evil in back. You expose it openly.
Yes.
And thank you today for telling us your story openly.
Yeah. That's right. You're welcome.
Yeah.
We're going to call some undertakers, but an artist drew a picture, drew a painting.
That's a powerful one too.
Yeah.
This,
Grandma and the baby.
we call it Grandma and the Baby. We've walked this painting up and down the river.
Right, good.
Here you see Grandma sitting on the porch, rocking the baby. We also see, what's happening?
Someone's falling
They're
out.
good, they're good.
They're okay though.
They're okay, you can go ahead.
You see Grandmama rocking the baby.
That's right.
See the chemical plant behind her.
Right there.
And we see all the chemicals going on top of Grandma and the baby.
That's right.
That is our story.
And if you get a chance, I don't know what the artist can do, but have him having that right there and come in a church with Grandma in the casket.
All right.
All right, you see what I'm saying?
We
want nobody to make a mistake. That grandma here, like you said, is their baby and all, but what happens after that is what we must make them see. Hold on one second.
Right.
She's hot. She's good. She's hot. Don't crowd her too much. Okay. Any medical? Good. Good.
Other men should help for a larger.
Get her in a cooler place. You can put her in that big truck if you need to.
Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. Somebody's sick. Somebody's sick, my Lord. Come by here. Somebody needs you, Lord. Come by here.
We got some professionals handling it.
Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. Somebody's sick. Somebody's sick, my Lord. Come by here. Somebody's sick, my Lord. Come by here. Somebody's sick, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here.
We need you, Lord. We need you, Lord.
Come by here. We need you, Lord. We need you, Lord. Come by here. We need you, Lord. We need you, Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here.
Come by here.
Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here.
Somebody sick, my Lord.
Come by here.
Oh, yes.
Somebody sick, my Lord. Come by here. Somebody sick, my Lord. Come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here.
Oh, come by.
Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here.
Let's get on the bus, everyone.
Oh, Lord.
We're going to the Sunshine Bridge.
All right. Come by here, my Lord.
Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by.
Yeah, she's alert. Man, the doctor's on the scene. Come on, let's sing. We need you, Lord. We need you, Lord.